You're utterly heartless.
Oh, pull yourself together. It's only a film. And I'm starving.
You men are all alike. All you ever think about is food. Oh, out of the way, I'll get it. It's all ready.
What is it?
Beef and things?
Things?
Yes, things. Cooked with oxo.
What Katie was doing, and with Katie, her well-known husband, or husbands, Philip, because she had a couple of Philips without anybody noticing, was to transfer her comparative youth and rather pretty southeast accent and all that, to associate that with the cube. It was not to say that we hoped people would say, I want to be like Katie. Katie uses OXO, therefore I will use OXO.
No.
It doesn't go like that. It just says, if OXO is used by people like that, OXO cannot, by definition, be that old-fashioned, that... we were releasing the inhibitions.
During her 16 years in the kitchen, Katie was the archetype for the advertising good wife.
All right, Philip, supper's ready.
As that ideal changed, so Katie changed with it. But to begin with, she seemed to crumble cubes for one reason only.
Let her go.
Man appeal. Man appeal.
Man appeal. Man appeal.
Man appeal. Philip. What really made you propose to me in the first place?
Because I found you irresistible. You were the only one of my girlfriends that could cook.
Katie and Philip were no Mr. and Mrs. Average. For most of the 60s, they lived the high life. Delicacies with suspiciously foreign names like goulash and broccoli were served at elegant soirees in their designer home for Philip's boss. His executive lifestyle, nonetheless, left Philip time for a game of squash, 15 years before the sport became widespread. And the two of them were even seen at the ballet, though Philip was at least man enough not to enjoy it much.
I'm hungry. Well, can't we eat out?
I've got something in the oven.
Casserole? Goulash? I could do with a nice dish of goulash.
Do you mind, young man?
With noodles.
But this was all too avant-garde for the market. Katie and Philip needed to be taken down a peg or two.
Katie herself was seen to be a little too prissy, suburban, nace, for the kind of food that OXO is best for. I mean, somebody described her as getting too much of piped potato, doily land. She was getting into doily land. So answer, it seems simple now, is put her and Philip living in the country where all the piped potato values could go, and that's solid again, that's real again, that's why that move happened.
But though she exchanged chiffon blouses for Aran sweaters, escape to the countryside was not liberation from the kitchen.
You know, I could stay here forever.
Mum, I'm hungry!
Good heavens, lunchtime already.
Philip's appetite hadn't changed, but he'd certainly undergone a radical career move. What did survive from his executive days was his habit of giving out 11th-hour invitations to lunch for assorted workmates.
12, actually. Katie? 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 You're a marvel, Katie.
No, I'm not. I'm a weak, foolish, downtrodden woman who gets let in for all sorts of impossible things. No mother enjoys them.
This was the closest Katie ever came to rebellion. What was extraordinary was her outburst, not her capitulation. In earlier advertising, the imagery suggested that women were scarcely conscious of their own subjection.
And anyway, I can't tell stalk from butter.
I can. Stalk's so much easier to cream.
When they did ponder the fact that their drudgery went unnoticed, they rationalized it into some kind of tribute.
Men. They think a good meal buys itself, cooks itself. Still, I suppose it's a compliment to be taken for granted.
In the changing world on the brink of the 70s, the good wife's load was just as heavy, her life just as frantic. But with talk of social change and sexual revolution gathering pace, the dilemma for advertisers was how much, if at all, they too should change.
These are the things a woman builds. grace in her girl children, boisterousness in her boys, strength in her man. And she builds with the help of Weetabix. Good whole wheat nourishment. Weetabix, the builder.
The message was clear. The foundations of society still depended on Mum, and advertising wasn't about to abandon her.
Oh, Anne Reeves here gives her family Stork Super Blend margarine, and she's been voted a Stork Supermum. Yeah. Hold on. Now why?
Of all brands, Stork tried hardest to prop up and celebrate the 70s good wife. Their ultimate heroine didn't just service her family. She now catered for the entire neighbourhood.
Well, Bruce, when I had Tracy, I honestly don't know what I would have done without her.
Because she's a kind mother.
She is?
And she cooks lovely.
That's lovely. That way you look contented. Carry on with your fruitcake.
No matter how many children are here or friends are here, you'll always find she's got time for you.
Mother.
I just think she's great.
Yeah, well, that's the best reason in the world.
But not all products could exploit the family through such tabloid emotions. A time-honoured alternative was to portray Housework as a joy in itself.
It makes new green Vim whiten a sink whiter than any other scourer, and that's important.
This idea of housework as fun achieved notoriety and then cult status in another campaign.
Shake and back from Glady's here. It's all you have to do. Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. When your carpet smells fresh, your room does too. Every time you vacuum, remember what to do. Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. Shake and back, now in 3 fragrances.
The most remarkable thing about it is the way it survived so long. That brand was first introduced with that advertising in 1979, and it ran for essentially 10 years.
It's all you have to do.
The second most remarkable thing about it is it created a category which didn't exist before. People did not throw powder onto their floors and vacuum it up afterwards.
It's all you have to do.
And perhaps most importantly of all, when someone came to the house, or the husband came home, he could see that the housework had been done, and therefore there was some kind of reward from a third party.
It's all you have to do.
But for most women, drudgery, stress and lack of reward is the reality of housework.
Every morning, things begin to wind you up.
Most advertisers, not surprisingly, ignored this, but some did begin to cash in on the fact that ordinary women desperately needed time for themselves, though as Birdseye knew well, stern words would be required to get them to take it.
A lot of women never have lunch, apparently. The excuse is time, or else it's not worth bothering just for me. Well, it is. You can have a nice hunk of cod in a parsley sauce like I've got here. So be a good girl. Have a proper lunch tomorrow.
Encouraging her to take a proper break was given further mileage by British Rail.
We travel intercity like the men do. Intercity sitting pretty all the way. So join us on the intercity when you feel you need a little holiday. Away from the boring kitchen sink and need you at. We're leaving behind the daily round and common task. Come on and travel intercity like the men do. We'll have a little outing now and then. So up with women's rights. Come up and see the sights. We'll be nicer, brighter women for our men. Away from it all and home again.
This time for yourself ticket gradually worked its way into the most unlikely commercials. Domestos, for example, issued its own away day to Mum, who, despite Dad's incompetence, could trust the toilet cleaner to keep the family safe until her return.
Hello, loves. Hey, look, I've passed.
Domestos kills all known germs. Dead.
This was the prototype for much that was to come. By the mid-80s, the more mundane the product, the more common it was to pep up the lifestyle and leisure pursuits of the user.
My life's active, but that only goes halfway to keeping me in shape. I do aerobics to keep really fit. I don't go halfway with my laundry either. Just clean isn't good enough for me. I expect more, and Bold 3 gives me more.
Self-conscious lifestyle was the hallmark of the new advertising heroine. Adding some aerobics supposedly made her and the powder go-getting symbols of the independent 80s.
So let surf get on with your wash while you get on with your life.
Some advertising even congratulated women for making so much progress over the years in turning time for yourself into a way of life.
3 years ago, when Susie was 7, I